Well, it looks like the mic is working. Hey there, Rapscallion 101. Awesome. So, starting out here, I am going to be discussing some RPG stuff um, and doing a little campaign design. And probably for about an hour or so, we'll see. And I am going to just see how this goes. We'll see who jumps in. There may be a couple of people from my day job as writer and lead designer of the Depths board game at City State Entertainment. But this is my own stream. This is my own thing. And I just thought it would be, since I get a lot of questions about my GMing style on the morning streams I do, I thought it would be fun to kind of get a stream going dedicated to that. So here we go. Hey, Rapscallion 101, can you hear me? I just want to make sure that the mic is indeed functioning. And can you hear the music? Hopefully it's all working. Not sure if you can hear me. Hopefully, oh, okay. A heart from Karasthina, thank you very much. Alright, well, I'm just going to get some practice in here, talking while I do this. But I just realized that with Karasthina in here, I'm going to need to work on something that she is not a player in. But, or at least that won't have any reveals for her. So, this is the map that I have going for the Wildlands campaign, which is a campaign that I run online on Roll20, as you can see. And I've used Hexographer to generate this map with lots of potentially interesting locations on it. And a lot of this map is unknown even to me, because I wanted to... Hey, Denarian! Happy Friday! Thanks for joining me, Denarian. Good to see you. I don't know if you were there for my stream this morning, Denarian, but I was getting a lot of Dungeons & Dragons questions, GMing questions, so I decided to just go ahead and do my own stream this evening, and we'll see how it goes. To answer questions for those interested, or just talk about campaign prep, etc. As we go. So, this is the map that I have going for that campaign. a lot of this map, I don't know exactly what's there. Because I wanted to kind of do an old school kind of hex crawler, as it's called. Denarian says, maybe everyone will show up and ask a lot of questions. Maybe. That would be great. So, I have this this hex map going in the classic hex crawler fashion. The difference being that often I also gave this map to the players. And Rapscallion 101, happy Friday to you too, man. Normally on a hex crawler, like the classic hex crawler map, you'd give like them a pretty blank map. You give players a pretty blank map with just like a few, general outlines of continents, perhaps. Maybe a couple of major terrain features like coastlines and things of that nature. But I think, for one thing, since this is an online campaign, and those come with a particular set of special challenges. For example, you don't get the fun of filling out a physical hex map. You kind of have to rely on things that you can create on the screen, which tend to be, they just have a lot less of a tactile fun to them. Plus, although you have a lot more flexibility in some ways, a lot of neat things you can do, like the music that I'm playing. You can't tear up a map or erase parts of it easily and go back. People have to use their own image editor. So I wanted to have a map that would have a lot of points of interest already kind of showing on it. That basically players could look at the map and go, hey, I want to go there. What is that? That they would then, go, be motivated to go there and see for themselves. I didn't want to give them a totally blank map because I didn't feel like the fun of filling out a map is as visceral when it's an online campaign. At this point in the campaign, I started the players here, well, they came from that village. I actually started them here at this dragon's lair. And part of the concept of the opening of this campaign was I wanted to try something I'd been kind of noodling on for a while, which was I wanted to run an adventure in reverse. So the campaign opened with the players, each player getting a magic item or other treasure from the dragon's hoard that lay slain at their feet. Then I had the players need to run away from the dragon's mate that was coming back to the lair. So I just said, what would your character pick up? Choose now. So they would only get one thing instead of a whole dragon's hoard at level 1. And I made sure that, that later on I would design an item that would be interesting for their character. And gave them just a brief moment to choose something and then go running off. So it started with getting treasure. Then I had them kind of cross a kind of a trap area. Let me see here. I think I actually have this still saved. Where is it? There. So I started the players at the treasure hoard. Right over here. Then I had them flee. I said, you better flee. I guess one of them could have stayed back and gotten eaten alive, but nobody chose to do that. Which was fortunate, because this campaign has a lot of players, and a lot of them are new. So none of them chose to stay and try and fight Dragon at level 1. And they fled into this room, which was kind of a trap area, where a lava being was hurling gobbets of lava at them. So I kind of got the players used to, the new players used to rolling dice. You know, roll a dexterity saving throw, as this is a 5th edition game. And they get them used to rolling dice, used to you know, what that means, what can happen, and they ran across this room, and then an encounter started. So this chamber had a bunch of goblins, and I wanted to also kind of introduce a lot of different concepts kind of all at the same time. So these goblins, there were 2 different tribes, and one of the tribes was hostile, and the other one was not necessarily so. All slaves of the dragon, with these big, I described these big iron collars that all the goblins were wearing. And to get some sympathy for their erstwhile enemies. And the players then had an encounter and then were able to escape. Then they traveled back to that village I mentioned. That was the starting village, Taurine, which is 2 hexes away. And that introduced them to the travel rules that I have going, where essentially each hex is a day's worth of travel. And using a skill check system, inspired by something mentioned by Matt Colville, if you've ever heard of him, where I gave the players an opportunity to help during the travel. And then they arrived back at Taurine and went to a tavern. So you can see, perhaps, how this is an adventure this was an adventure in reverse. Started with treasure, then traps, encounter, travel, and then tavern, instead of starting at a tavern and ending up with treasure. And it worked. I mean, that's kind of maybe an unnecessarily noodly concept. That you know, I wouldn't say that that it necessarily worked better than starting in the classic tavern and proceeding normally, but in a way it did beat that out, because there was no initial kind of like, well, here we are, we're just meeting. It's as if our characters just meeting, but we have to pretend to already know each other, or they are really just meeting, and that's awkward. It just skipped right past all of that. And of course, people love to get stuff. This is a concept I'm definitely thinking about in my board game design as well. People just like to get stuff. And to kick off the campaign with here is some treasure, immediately got people interested and excited about the game. Excuse me, I need some water. excited to play, because they immediately were very present, because they got a present. If I'm taking Karasthina's meaning correctly, good job. A baby sleeps, and the world is quieter. So the other thing is that not only did they get to start off by getting something without having to go out and do stuff. The chat is on and off for me. Am I cutting out? Is the audio on and off? Oh, okay, just the chat. Well, there's not too much going on in chat right now, Rapscallion 101, so don't sweat it. So one thing is that they were able to kind of get immediately into the game and excited because they got treasure. The other thing is needing to flee from the dragon, which was basically the first action they all had to take after grabbing a piece of treasure. That really helped as well. That really worked. It did a lot of things. It set a certain tone where there's real danger in the world that you may have to flee from. Plus, it again, it cut through that initial like, who are we and what do we want? What's our motivation? Which a lot of my campaigns in the past have struggled with that. Where it's like, here is this dramatic opening, or here you are, you're in a tavern, you're these cool characters. And then everyone's like, alright, I guess I have a drink, or I guess I, talk to a random person because the players talking to each other isn't going to get us anywhere. Even if you have like a starting adventure, people aren't necessarily motivated at all to figure out what their characters want. So by starting it with, you need to run away from a dragon, grab a piece of treasure and run, it set the tone, and it just got everyone doing something. A very powerful motivation. Run or die. Right from the start of the game, from the literal first minute of the game, was this, sort of irresistible motivation. And again, it didn't have to be I've tried this before where, I tried this in kind of a Asian themed game. Kind of fantasy thing where the players' like temple where they studied martial arts was being destroyed at the start of the game, and my idea was that would, this is a previous campaign of years ago. My idea was that would really motivate the players. They're going to want to chase down whoever burned down their temple. And it worked, but only to a degree, and only worked eventually, because it didn't give them an immediate thing to do, an immediate motivation. It was just kind of like, well, here we are lost in this unfamiliar world, unfamiliar to the players, and to the PCs in a sense, to the characters in a sense. But here we are lost in this unfamiliar world. We have no direction, we have no, or maybe we have a vague direction, but we don't know what we want to do right now. And this campaign worked a lot better for that, because it just gave all the players this immediate need, this thing we have to do, and it was a beautiful thing. That part of the reversed adventure really worked. I don't know that if I had it to do over again, that I would have started them 2 days travel from the town. Because I had them here, and I wanted to give them this immediate choice. My thinking was, I'll give them this choice, you know? They can take one of 2 hex paths back to 1313, where Taurine is. The problem was that I had to explain the hex map. I had to explain the travel rules. I had to explain the skill challenge rules, which all worked really great. And I'm, happy to talk about them. But it was, I think, a lot to take in. And then when they finally got to Taurine, I had to, introduce a new location to them. So, it did work, but I don't know that I would have, if I had it to do over again, I might have somehow made the dragon's lair just outside of town. Maybe it was a recent dragon's invasion, instead of, a settled mated pair, which would have been a somewhat different feel. And then they could have just left and gone right back to town, and then we could have just gone into the tavern, and that would be like a complete thing. And so having to stop kind of in the middle of the adventure, in the middle of the story, not really stop, but to kind of remove ourselves from normal D&D and explain, okay, here is all the special things I'm doing with this campaign. That wasn't such a strong move. So if I had to do it again, I probably would have put the dragon's lair right adjacent to Taurine, and just not needed to explain all my special stuff. Then they could have recovered, kind of reset themselves, and they would have been able to then kind of venture out into this hex crawler world with a little bit more of a grounded feeling. One of the other things I'm doing in this campaign is I'm trying to do something interesting. Grimslag! Hey! I am wearing the shirt that Grimslag sent me. I opened it on Morning with Max. There ain't no party like a D&D party, because a D&D party don't stop until the healer is dead and we're out of potions. Amazing shirt, Grimslag. I absolutely loved it. I actually looked up where this phrase came from. Did you know it came from kind of a R&B or hip-hop video, and was then who's George something, and then it was popularized by a more recent popular rapper, Coolio, I think. And now it has just entered the public lexicon that you see this phrasing all the time everywhere. Interesting. I love this shirt. So I'm trying to do something a little different with towns. So when they got to Taurine, I showed the players this map. This is... I did not create this myself. I found it online. I think this is by one of my favorite creators. Starts with a B. Pro Bono. I think this is Pro Bono. Anywho. Oh, no, I think this is Bogey, actually. Anyway. So... I showed them this map, and it didn't have any writing on it. And I basically said, okay, as you're learning your way around, I described, okay, there's this ship, etc., in the middle of town. Looks like it had to fly there because it's too big to go along the streams or rivers that feed into the town. Where do you want to go? And I put their characters on the map. There's no hex grid. And just said, put yourselves where you want to go. More thinking of this like a board game. As like a kind of a worker placement board game. I don't know if you might be familiar with that style of game. It's kind of like a Euro game style where you put your little workers down on different spaces and they give you resources. That's how I was kind of thinking of it. And the plan was, the idea being that, again, to kind of deal with certain issue that sometimes comes up when players come to town. And they don't know where to go, and they don't know what to do. Maybe there's a town map, but it doesn't necessarily, like, there's too many options, and they kind of just, so there's often like, well, I grab a random passerby and ask them what I need to know, or ask them what is there to do here in town, or just kind of like not really knowing where they are and kind of eliding. You have to do a lot of eliding times, like, well, then I walk over here and then I walk over there. I just wanted to skip past all that and make it a very present and understandable thing. Where they could just move their characters on Roll20 around to whatever building they wanted to go to. And then I filled in as they found out the location of things. I wrote down the names of the various locations. So this is a traveling menagerie, which would become important to kind of one of the main quests available to them in this game, which is getting creatures for this menagerie. The Blind Bottle, the local tavern, where the storyline kind of ended at, and that's where I said, all right, you guys level up, and give them their first level up to level 2. General Store, the Ancient Market, Shrooms and Wing, which is a very silly name, randomly generated from I think Kassoon.com, which is one of my favorite recently one of my favorite generator sites. But I loved it because that's the Alchemist, where they can go and purchase healing potions. And just kind of filled out the town. And that's the other thing, is I didn't want to put... I want to use town maps that don't have names all over them. And again, the reason is because when people... And it's a very natural human thing. When you're presented with a huge number of options, you naturally want to narrow it down to, okay, what do I really need to worry about? So when you have when you're presented with a city map or a town map that just labels, 12 different locations, 2 different taverns, multiple stores, a magic curio shop, and what have you, that would work with the worker placement thing, but it would also tend to limit the player's thinking in what they would go to find. Because it's like, well, if these 12 things are all that there are here, we're only going to ever think about those. And other stuff is going to have to kind of come up slowly through story. Whereas I wanted them to have the real kind of discovering a place experience, instead of it being a menu of locations to visit. Not sure if that makes sense, but it did work. because people were able to just kind of ask and interact with the townsfolk and get, useful information that the townsfolk would know, like, is there a tavern in town? And then, whoever they're speaking to is able to kind of randomly generate an NPC, and a tavern name, the Blind Bottle, which I think is a great name. I've become a huge fan of random generators for things, but of course then altering them so that they're even better. But getting inspired by random generators is what you're supposed to do, I think. And I just liked the Blind Bottle. To me, that is a great name for a D&D tavern. Drink until you're blind. But it doesn't quite make sense because a blind bottle isn't a real thing. So I kind of love that. All right. So let me think here. What do I want to work on tonight? So that's kind of the general outline of the campaign. What do I want to work on here? Well, considering that I don't want to give away any spoilers to anyone that might be watching, who might be playing in this game over the weekend, I think I am not going to work on something that's a little too immediate. Grimslag says, Blind Bottle, drink until you can't see the bottle. Been there in college, never again. Oh boy. Yeah. I have some stories. Post college. I didn't go too crazy in college. I pretty much studied hard. But afterward, I made my mistakes, I guess. A rapscallion, random name generator as your muse. We really can't go wrong with that. I love fantasy name generators as a site. It inspires me all the time, and it is just a wonderful thing. Just trying to think of what I can create that's not going to be too much of a spoiler. Clown name's evil. Volatile Venom Needle Requiem. Is Requiem a clown name? Raw. Bogus. Okay, that's a good clown. That's a good evil clown name. Envy, no. Arid, Screech, and Deadpan. Ah, I know. I know what I can work on. So, one of the things that happened is the players were hired to retrieve to capture a basilisk. And I had this amazing basilisk token I got to use, which made me really happy. Yeah, this guy. Rawr. I got his name, or a version of his name that I then changed from Fantasy Name Generators. It was Chukash. Chukash, with a double A and a Q. but they had to capture this sort of leader basilisk for a monetary reward. That was one of the things when they went back to Taurine. They were rewarded with some gold. I read a piece of advice that said that really resonated with me in an article about dungeon mastering. And it's that if you want the players to like an NPC, have that NPC give them something, give them a treasure. Deadpan silence. What's that, Rapscallion? I didn't cut out, did I? I'm always worried this headset is going to disconnect. Have them give them a piece of treasure. So Stray, the leader of that flying ship or traveling menagerie, the keeper of the menagerie who travels around, she hired them. First, she just gave them some coin as thanks for kind of reporting back about what happened with the dragon. There's some story there that happened as well. Some NPCs for them to care about. But she immediately gave them some gold and then gave them a gift, like a healing staff. Just some extra protection, because I thought these new players might not be all up on the healing. But she also said, hey, if you want to be monster chasers, and this is very Pokemon inspired, I'll give you a gem that can kind of capture monsters that have been knocked unconscious. And that was intentional. I wanted it to be kind of something that everyone would kind of recognize and not question, like Pokemon, and just be like a cool thing for them to do. Deadpan Silence is an evil clown name. Ooh. That is a good evil clown name. Thanks, Rapscallion 101. Last name Silence, first name Deadpan. I think I might pop that in my notes for later. I don't mind putting my notes on screen. I need to update this anyway. So, I'll just be careful about showing spoilers for those of you who... for the one person in chat who might see a spoiler. There we go. Deadpan Silence. Evil clown name. I'm just going to record that for later, in case I need NPC. Mr. Silence to you, indeed. Alright, so where were we? I keep getting distracted. So, the Basilisk. They captured the Basilisk, and they also met this NPC. So I can work on this NPC a little bit, because it won't be too spoilerific. Taladar, hello! Deadpan's Labyrinth. Reference to a very good but very disturbing movie. Rapscallion 101, not looking at the notes. Don't worry about it. No, I was just referring to my wife, who is in the chat, because she's in this game. That we run online. Okay, Grimslag says, need to hear Max drinking stories. So before I work on this NPC and tell you about them, I'll just real quick tell you this, a foolish decision that I made. So we were being silly one night with some people from some friends from CSE, and we were doing a drinking game uh, where we were watched My Little Pony and drank every time there was friendship or magic. Um, which, if you're familiar at all, there's a lot of that being in the title of the show. So everyone was drinking beer or whatever you drink in drinking game. Yeah, beer. But I'm not a huge fan of beer, especially not. Yeah, I'm just not that into it. So I decided, you know what? I'll use vodka. So I did a shot of vodka every time there was either friendship or magic. And that might not have been the best decision. I weathered it. I was sort of okay the next morning, but some interesting things happened that night, including me not really remembering what movie we had watched after I think they watched it like 1.5 times. Denarian, oh dear, my kids were MLP fans when they were younger. Well, you know, that was actually a really great introduction to My Little Pony. I was actually more than a bit impressed with the storytelling. It was good. It's a good kids show. I don't think you have to be into collecting the ponies in order to appreciate a good kids show. Denarian, we have so many ponies. Awesome. I guess if it makes them happy. All right. So, here's the thing. This NPC, I had some statues. Because basilisks turn people to stone. So you gotta have some statues around the basilisk lair, which was this ruin in the desert. One of the things I was doing with this ruin was it's called Rubble Point, but I kept mentioning that it has its older name, when it wasn't, in ruins, was Karane. And an intentionally sort of French-esque sound to it, because I wanted to give the sense of there being history to this world, and there being a previous empire that once ruled the Wildlands. And then as the players went under the ruins, I mentioned that the architecture looked even older, and an even earlier empire has been mentioned. So stay tuned. We might be delving into that next session we have online. So here they are, Rubble Point, and I placed these statues all around, which I learned this new trick that I can make things big. Because you gotta have statues. If there's basilisks. And I mentioned, oh yeah, most of these statues are bitten, chewed, because basilisks eat the stone of people they transform. Which was a really awesome way of the players immediately kind of caught into that, and they're like, wow, they must have powerful jaws. And they kind of got a little intimidated by the basilisks, which was great, because this was meant to be a really intimidating encounter for players or for characters of second level. So I gave them a way to undo the being turned to stone, petrification effect of basilisks, because they're low level and they don't have a magical way of doing it. And so I said, all right, they discovered through an encounter with an NPC back in town. They went and talked to the alchemist. They were enterprising enough to actually ask her if she knew anything about basilisks. And I figured, well, and she's an alchemist, she's going to know this one weird fact, which was that you can rub basilisk blood on a petrified person and it will turn them back. Cover yours, Karasthina, but that is not in the monster manual. It is something that I think, I guess I'm not entirely sure where I got it from. I might have gotten it from Matthew Mercer of Critical Role or something like that. But it just seemed really appropriate to kind of give them a way, first of all, reward them for investigating, because I really believe that that's really, really important. And secondly, to get the players a way of dealing with being petrified in case the dice went against them. Went against them. Grimslag, I never trusted statues in D&D games. / inspect statue as soon as I saw one. Yeah. Well, in this case, they kind of knew what they were getting into because the captain of the menagerie ship had kind of told them where these basilisks were. So they weren't too surprised when they found these statues. But, of course, while none of the players were quite turned to stone, although it got pretty close at a certain point in the fight, they decided to go around and look for any statue that was relatively undamaged and rub blood on it just to bring an NPC to life. I kind of knew that they were going to do that, but I kind of thought that, but then again, maybe not. Maybe they, would just kind of assume, like, leave these people to their fate. I left it a little bit open for myself. I didn't want to delve too much into creating an NPC who might never get de-petrified. So, when they went ahead and did it, then I had to come up with an NPC real quick. I had these NPC cards, which I found online, which someone created. Brilliant, awesome resource for any... you could also print these out, I suppose. And let me grab the link real quick. Is it not in my notes document? Shoot. It's in another place. This information is in another castle. It's in my giant folder of D&D stuff. Yeah, by Michael Fitzywell. Yep, these are them. On ArtStation. And Michael Fitzywell, thank you so much. These exist with a image meant to be printed out and stuck together. Image on one side, instant background of the NPC and their basic info on the other. and I just whipped out one of these cards, had an image that I could put down, and I had the other side saved so that I could instantly create NPC, and it's just absolutely wonderful. What a fantastic thing. If you go and use it, tell Mr. Fitzywell I sent you. But I pulled out this guy, Kront. Kront Three Finger. And what's so great about these is they've put some role-playing hints, personality, just a real quick about, and possible hooks. Fantastic. Alignment, gender, just the basic information that you actually need for an NPC whom you do not really expect to be involved in a combat. Just awesome. Literally could not be more perfect. If they were available for sale, I would just buy a set. Like that. But right now I'm just using them in my campaign. So, so I had Kront Three Finger jump out, and it kind of hit me in a moment, like, hang on a minute. The statues could have been here any amount of time. Wouldn't it? I was already trying to get the players interested. It's fine if they're not, but I think to really make the world feel alive and rich, I want them to have a sense of history. In one of my favorite books about writing, How to Write a Damn Good Novel, he talks about how you want to appeal to all the senses when you're writing, and I think that's very, very true in descriptions in D&D as well. Hearing, taste, sound, smell, all the five senses, but also all the dimensions. Up, down, etc. But also the dimension of time is important to properly make people feel in the moment. And there's a whole discussion I could go into about tropes and time, a vast time, a sense of a large amount of time having passed before you. But one thing I was trying to do in this moment was give the players a sense that there's a lot of history to this world, should you be interested in it, and just give them a feeling that things are very big, while me actually doing relatively little amount of actual work to make that happen. And it came to me in a flash, what if this character has been here a long time? A lot longer than a half-orc's lifespan, because he's been turned to stone. And so, when this character came to life, I described him as speaking in, like, an archaic tongue, not one the players necessarily understood. And being freaked out, and when somebody cast Comprehend Languages, amazing spell, so glad that's in the game, and of course I was very happy to give them validation for using it. Another very important jamming principle. He was able to say, like, oh yeah, when I was here, this wasn't in ruins. Like, what happened? This happened all in a moment. because for him, no time has passed at all. You know, he was stone. He wasn't moving. He wasn't breathing. He wasn't experiencing the passage of time. And it was a really amazing role-playing moment that really folded in nicely with after this massive combat encounter that went over a couple of our short online sessions. But it was a really amazing role-playing moment where all the players were kind of like able to get a sense of what had come before and to interact with this particular character. And I think they kind of took a liking to Kront, the innkeeper from almost 200 years ago. Hey, Grimslag, just bought it. How to write a damn good novel, step-by-step, no-nonsense guide to dramatic storytelling here tomorrow. Well, my novel, Pandalay, which I keep meaning to get back on Amazon and set up properly, but I guess I kind of have a mental block about it. Like, I need to just do it. Yeah, that novel got me through writing that book when I was 15. Started it when I was 15, anyway. Yeah, that's a really good. I really like that particular writing book. A lot of practical advice. Anyway, I got so involved in talking about the campaign that I'm currently running, I never really did any design. But I said I'd stream for about an hour. It has been about that. I don't know. I might keep going. Especially if there's any questions or thoughts that people... if anybody in chat has any, I'll certainly stay for that. But you know what? I am going to do a little bit more because I want to. Kron Threefinger has the deed to his tavern, and when I was creating story hooks, one of the things I kind of came up with was, when I was creating story hooks for this Hexcrawler game, because a Hexcrawler needs a lot of story hooks, reasons to go places, I was like, you know what's a really great hook is a deed to a place. Because you have to go to that place and experience that place in order to get the benefit of a deed. So it's a really great... One of the things of doing this game is objects as story hooks. Objects as adventure hooks. It's actually... I guess with mixed success, because the players don't always bite. But it definitely is fun. So one thing is that this innkeeper has the deed to his old tavern. And one thing he's going to want to do is go back to Toreen and try and cash in on his 200-year-old claim to this building. So that's going to be interesting. Taladar, we'll have to check that book out. Had a bunch of random ideas for stories were floating around in my head and on various bits of paper scattered all around. Well, that sounds like the process of writing, Taladar. I recommend putting it all into one document. And then reorganizing from there. Me, I often end up, when I'm writing, I end up having everything in one document. And it works for me because even though things are severely disorganized within that document, at least it's all there in one place. And I can just go and look at the one document, and I know nothing's ever lost because it has both my newer stuff and all the old stuff in it. Paladin Brewer is here. Says Max's hat is too small. Sir, what would you have me do? This is the maximum hat size I was able to find. I think the sorting hat will do just fine. Good sir. Welcome, Paladin Brewer. Did you just assume my alignment? Did my camera freeze? No? Still working? Okay. Good. Oh man. I have a lot of thoughts on paladins and alignment. But I should actually do this thing I keep trying to do with the character here. So, I don't think it's going to be much of a spoiler for anyone in this campaign to hear the names of Krantz Inn. So I have an inn generator, a tavern generator. But I'm not sure if I like that one more. Or if I like a simpler one more, because this has a lot of information on it. And sometimes when you're creating something, it's better to have a light amount of information and just let your imagination go wild. Kind of like what I was trying to do with the players in town. Just kind of just see what their expectations would take them. And I'm kind of trying to do that myself. With a lot of times with D&D things, because sometimes you want to have the seed of an idea, but if it's a fully designed, fully formulated thing, well, it had better be good, because this is an interactive game, and people want to. I mean, the whole point of it is that there's a push and a pull. So often the best thing, I think, will be to kind of come up with in the moment. So this has a lot of information about a tavern. The Fearsome Eagle Lodge. I don't know, it sounds a little American. Not necessarily what I'm going for. Actually, what I kind of want is a French name, because one of the immediately previous empire has a kind of a French theme going on. Paladin Brewer, I need to go downstairs for tea. Well, of course, you're Paladin Brewer. Your tea is brewing. Though my roommate is down there and I don't want to put on pants. Well, the rest of that is your problem. Copper Dreams Tavern. The Blue Galley. Thanks for the suggestion, Rapscallion. Copper Dreams. Copper Dreams. It's a little bit creepy. Which, I'm not really going for that with this guy. Although I generally love creepy. Copper Dreams sounds like a hookah bar. Actually. Oh, it's a dive bar? Yeah, no, I don't want him to have like a dive kind of place. This half-orc is a very wholesome, kind of expects people to be racist against him. Because he's a half-orc. But kind of expects people to be racist against him, but is kind of a very good-hearted kind of guy. I think if he was creepy, that would kind of... I don't want him to be creepy because I want the players to feel really good about... First of all, he didn't give them a creepy vibe from the start. You know, they brought him back to life. But I want them to feel good about bringing him back. And if he's creepy, then they might have mixed emotions. Even like a dive bar might be okay. I don't know. Copper Dreams just doesn't... It's not quite right. It's good, though. The Exquisite Toad. I'm going for something a little French. Let's see. Tavern names. The Foolish Duck. Oh, something lucky. Something lucky is good. The Lucky Duck? Well, no, because I'm going to translate it. I got skipped. The Fox and Feather. The Fox and Feather sounds like a hunting lodge. Like a lot. That's a good name for a hunting lodge, though. I am going to notate that one down. I'm getting all these good ideas for stuff. Normally, I would just, you know, do the first thing on a name generator. Was it the Fox and Feather? Oops. The Exquisite Toad, you know what I'm going to use that for, actually? I forgot how to spell. That would be a goblin thing. I have something, the Frog Talker, that I took from a Pathfinder book and put in this 5th edition game. Because I like Pathfinder. I have some issues with it. I have a lot of issues with Golarion, but man, one thing Paizo gets, they get it. It's goblins. They get goblins. So the Exquisite Toad would be a goblin. I want to reference the Exquisite Corpse, Dadaism. So a goblin salon. The Spicy Pickaxe. Well, that doesn't really make sense. The Spicy Pickaxe. The Lucky Pickaxe. Kind of a minor thing. I haven't really established that mining is a thing in Taurine, or as our friend calls it, Taurine, because he remembers when it was in the Old Empire. That's what it was called. Maybe it is the Blind Bottle, but it used to be called something else. Orcs aren't smart. No lucky. What's wrong with the Lucky Pickaxe? I like that. Google Translate. Translate to French. Now the reason to make it the Blind Bottle is so that there's some conflict between some NPCs, which I'm not entirely sure. Ugh, that is too much of a mouthful. La pioche chanceuse. Yeah, lucky is too much of a mouth full French. The broken tankard? Ooh. Well, tankard isn't a French word. Cup is coupe. La coupe cassée. That's good. We got a little alliteration going on, which is the repetition of the beginning sounds of words. La coupe cassée. That's good. Okay. All right. Now we're cooking with gas. So, Krant's Old Tavern. I'm going to need to make a section for Krant Three Finger in my notes here. Krant Three Finger, and then I have the outline set up so that I can find things later. Now it's added. Krant Three Finger. Krant Three Finger is this guy. I'm going to need to save that image somehow so that I can find it again later. This is absolutely... I haven't come up with a better way of doing this, but I'm just going to add a character. Ugh, right. I have to go find it now. There it is. At least this way I'll be able to find him again later easily. Krant Très Droit. It would be something else in Orcish. Or the archaic Orcish he knows. As a half-orc. But now I'll be able to have that image later. Did I not do Stray? Oh no. Well, fortunately I have her saved over here, so... Anyway, that's all random bookkeeping that none of you care about. La coupe cassée. That's what we were doing. Reference character card. Hopefully I'll be able to find that again later. But I'll just make a quick note. Parents were adventurers. Had a tavern. Still has deed. So this was all made up last time, or kind of explained to the players last time, but I didn't really have it in my notes. I had it on the other thing card. Tavern name was La Coupe Cassée. That's good. That's really good. La Coupe Cassée. What's really fun about that is it kind of fits with his theme of being a hard luck guy. He traveled to like this watch post, you know, a few days away from home, because he lived in Turin. I just wanted to make it Turin so that it was kind of immediately recognizable to players. Although I kind of wish I had said Turin, because then they'd have another reason to travel to a different location. And now this is really going to tie them to going back to Turin. But I should come up with something. Needs reason to go to another town. This is definitely spoilers for Kate, but maybe she's not listening. Psycho Killer Coupe Cassé, the Broken Cup. What? Oh, it's a double E because coupe, right? Yeah. Is female. So, he needs a reason to go to another town. Alright, so I know the name of his tavern. I guess the question is, should it be the Blind Bottle? Now, the reason to make it the Blind Bottle is because it's something the characters already have a connection to. They talked to this NPC who owns it. He's a half-elf who is pretty helpful in telling them some information. But then they're going to have this sort of conflict between two NPCs, and then that's a little awkward. Or should it be some other building? Maybe the building doesn't even exist anymore. Maybe it's this. Maybe La Coupe Cassée was this location. I kind of like that. I do kind of like that. It'll make a kind of a sad end to his story, and it'll give him a reason to not stay in Turin. And while my first instinct was to make it connected to something they already knew, maybe he'll consider getting a job at the Blind Bottle, because tavern keeping is what he knows. I just want this NPC to, because the players have kind of taken an interest in him, I want him to not be too much of a main storyline. Although he could be. But it just doesn't, it feels a little too cheap if his storyline ends up taking over everything. So, Paladin Brew, I just want to know how that boat fit up that river. I actually mentioned that earlier in the stream. I very pointedly mentioned how there was no way this ship could have made it up the river. It is a flying ship. Stray's Traveling Menagerie. It's a zoo, essentially, of unusual monsters that travels around, and that the players now are monster chasers for. And it's kind of a Pokemon thing, where they can go and knock monsters out and capture them in gems and bring them back for the menagerie and get paid. Kind of a quest that's on purpose going to send them at different places around the map, get them going after interesting monsters, and have them kind of returning back for a reward, a reliable gold reward. So yeah, very intentionally kind of referencing a Pokemon theme there, because I wanted something that the players would immediately grasp. I didn't want it to be too Pokemon, though, so they're not, taming the monsters and having them, fight for them or anything. Just bringing them back for the menagerie. Just enough of a familiar thing. Alright, so we're filling out Kront Three Fingers' backstory. We know his family, child to two adventurers. Personality, good natured and of generous spirit, but loathes racism and little time for people to display it. So he feels very strongly about the racism he's experienced, and he doesn't like it when others experience that. You know, one thing I need to do is update the current location. They are still at 11:15 on the map. Rebel Point. One thing I'm doing is I wanted the players to be able to get lost, because I wanted travel to be an interesting challenge in this campaign. So I told them where they were at the very start of the game, and I said, I'm never going to tell you again. You know, you're at 11:13, you came from 13:13, which is Taurine, and that's it. After that, it's going to be a day's travel in, you know, northeast, south, you know, north, whatever the direction is, and you are going to have to keep track of it yourself. And all the directions I give them are like X number days travel from this recognizable landmark. And so it's up to them to track it themselves and know where they are, because I want them to be able to get lost, which is a rare thing in D&D, but is really interesting. And I wanted it to be something that the players could get lost, not the characters. Because when the characters get lost, it's just frustrating. Because it's like, oh, we flubbed a roll. You know, now we have to waste a bunch of time, either in-game or out-of-game time, or both, to just like find our way again. But when the players get lost, that's different. That, I think, induces a sense of tension and wonder, which I think can be really wonderful. Heh, wonderful. Said that twice. So they are now, however, they are here. And they just fought the basilisks. Which in my notes it says, Rebel Point is the ruins of Karanay, Basilisk Slayer, bring me the Alpha, Chukash, because that is what Stray of Traveling Menagerie told them to do. So they're at Rebel Point, and they are now... I should show you what I'm writing. Underneath the ruin in sand dungeon. So I've put them in, or I haven't put them. They have decided to explore beneath the ruins, where there is, of course, a dungeon, because this is Dungeons and Dragons. And dungeons are... I don't know if it has this advice in the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide. The best Dungeon Master's Guide, for my money, was the DMG, the Dungeon Master's Guide 3.0. Not 3.5, which had almost all the same information, or a lot of the same information, but like way more rules that were just like, yeah, we couldn't fit this in the player's handbook, but if you want there to be a rule for everything, we're going to have to cram it into here. So way more stuff in the 3.5, but 3.0 definitely had this advice about why dungeons are good game design. It keeps the players focused. It puts them in a situation where there's a limited number of options of what they can do. It gives them like kind of clear and interesting challenges, and it just sets them in the moment, pulls them into the game. So dungeons are a really good thing, as are dragons, because dragons are cool. Paladin Brewer says, Outlander background, demand map of traveled places from DM. Totally. So I actually have 2 Outlanders backgrounds chosen in this game. If you read the Outlander background, it mentions that it says you always know where north is. Or rather, that's how I'm choosing to interpret it. What does it actually say? Let's find out. You grew up from the wilds, feature, origin, feature, wanderer. You have an excellent memory for maps and geography and always recall the general layout of terrain, settlements, and other features around you. In addition, you can have food and fresh water for yourself and up to 5 people each day. Rather, the land offers berries, small game water, and so forth. So, yeah. You can always recall the general layout of terrain, settlements, and other features around you. While that is true, and I'm going to honor that because I think that background abilities need to be referenced directly by the GM and pulled to the fore as much as possible, because I think background needs more focus, needs more engaging, continuous feedback from the game. No, it's not a feat, Paladin Brewer. Outlander background. Has a feature of Wanderer. Excellent memory for maps and geography. Always recall the general layout of terrain, settlements, and other features around you. So what I'm going to do, should the players ever really get lost, is I am going to describe the general layout of terrain, settlements, and other features around them to the Outlander players. And that will give them a huge hint to get them back on track. But I don't think it'll rob the... I mean, it doesn't say you automatically know where you are. It doesn't say you know where you are on this hex map. And I will not tell them that. I will not tell them that. I will definitely give them a huge advantage in finding their way again, should they become lost. But I will not straight up tell them where they are. Paladin Brewer. No, there's a feat for the Always Knows North. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's Keen Mind, isn't it? Something like that? I don't know. Yeah, Keen Mind. I said it right before you typed it, but it'll probably look like I said it by reading it off of what you said because of the delay. Ha! Yeah, there's a feed for the Always Knows North Keen Mind. Yeah, I actually gave Knowing North to one of the players because they're playing on Aarakocra. And they wanted to be a kind of a homing pigeon person. So I was like, all right, you always know North. To kind of help her navigate as well. So just kind of a feel-good thing. I've started just handing out bonuses and special abilities and things like that more freely than I used to, and it's really been good for my game. It's really been good for my game. I'm not too worried about devaluing any feats. I think that's probably fine. Grimslag. Day one of a new character, I go buy a compass. Right, and that's something, Grimslag, would you ever buy a compass in a normal D&D game if it wasn't like, you know, you need to actually navigate? You might not know where you are? No, you never would. Rapscallion, being nicer to the players. Hear, hear. Well, I mean, there's nice and there's nice, isn't there? I think you should be as nice as you are mean. I mean, nice and mean are probably the wrong words for it. A better way of putting it might be, I think the GM should strive to create as many solutions or paths to solutions as they create obstacles. or maybe more. They should create as many, they should give out a lot more benefits than penalties. And if you do need to give out a penalty, then it should be so overwhelming that there's no question about it. Rapscallion, former player remembering the Evil House. You do an excellent job with game balance. Well, thank you very much, Rapscallion. I do my best. Fortunately, in D&D, it is in RPGs, it is not too hard to balance on the fly. If you are comfortable enough with the game, you absolutely should, because what the point of you as a GM in a live game is that you are there and can adapt live to what the players do. And that's the point of playing a live game. Unlike a video game or a board game or any other kind of game where there is no game master who is sitting there. They had to think ahead and design ahead and say, well, I think this is what is going to happen. I think this is what people are going to do. And then if you break outside of what their expectations are, then things start to break down or become less fun. But if you are a GM, your job is to balance live in order to make things as fun as possible. And on that note, oh man, Grimslag, I had an evil GM. If anyone had a dependent, you'd be damn sure they'd be getting kidnapped soon enough. Yeah, that's, I feel like that's definitely, I mean, it's tough, because part of the point of putting that in a backstory is to give the GM a chance to do something with it, and potentially that could include, kidnapping their dependent. The problem is that then the players that pushes the players to, on their next character, maybe not create a thing for the GM to hurt them with. There's a great article out there on the internet, on Reddit or something, that talks about like the 7 knives that you should always have 7 knives that you arm the GM with whenever you create your character's backstory. Part of being a good player. I think it's a great idea in concept. I think it's a little potentially overstated if you Google that and go find the article. But I think it's a really, really great idea to be used sparingly. And I think that the GM should not always use things that... they should encourage the players to put things in their backstory that are not to be used to hurt the player, but should reward them in some way. The dependent is a plot hook, and it can be a plot hook via getting kidnapped, but maybe it's, maybe it's not. Maybe it's, maybe they're not in trouble. Wouldn't it be great if your family members, as an adventurer, if your family members were just fine and they just missed you? Wouldn't that be nice once in a while? And maybe your plot hook is they miss you and they're going to Magic University. And they want you to be there for graduation. Wouldn't it be nice, just as a kind of a change of pace, if you got some benefit out of putting things in your backstory instead of always getting hurt by it? I mean, as a player, I think you should be okay with being hurt by the GM once in a while, because it keeps things interesting and keeps the tension high. But the GM, there has to be trust. The GM has to establish trust that they're not always going to stab you in the back. Grimslag, same evil GM. You slay the dragon. Unfortunately, the area starts to shake, and you have absolutely no time to pick up any loot and must run or die. Yeah, see, that's just a violation of the contract between the GM and the players. Grimslag, the dependent was a chosen NPC by the player in exchange for a perk that's supposed to have a 5% chance to get involved in any scenario. GURPS rules, not D&D. Huh. That's interesting. In exchange for a perk, somebody who has a 5% chance to get involved in any scenario. Yeah, I feel like tying it that explicitly to a game mechanic benefit. I mean, it can be good. It can be a way to get people into to actually do that. But one thing I've discovered recently is that to let go. To let go a little bit. I think it's, you've got to be okay as the GM if people don't necessarily get so excited about your world that and your game that they immediately want to write up a character backstory. Some people just aren't into that. Some people may just not be feeling it, and that's okay. And you need to be okay with that. 5th edition has the background choice, and it's nice that it's in there. I think it is a little too static. As I mentioned earlier, I think it's a little too much like, it's too easy for your background to be a choice that you make based on mechanics at character creation and never worry about again. But your team took your dependent, mine took my eyes. That's intense, Paladin Brewer. In-game or in real life? Xanathar's roll life events in your parents and etc. I mean, yeah, if that's a tool that you find useful to inspire you to create something, then I say go for it. If, however, it's kind of like a chore that the GM is like trying to get the players to do, like, give me a backstory, show me that you give a crap about this character in this world, well, then it's not so beneficial, is it? So very recently, I have decided I'm trying something different, where I with the players, and I don't say this ahead of time, I just say, hey, if you want to make a backstory, you can. I'd be perfectly happy to have it. But, you can also get to know your character first or whatever you like to do. But then those who do submit a backstory, I create a secret for them. A secret that only they know, based out of their backstory. And I think that has been working. Where when all I say is, hey, such and such a player, so-and-so got a secret because they submitted a backstory. And everyone else is like, I want a secret. So there's no mechanical benefit. It's not like you get a feat or whatever, a special ability from writing up a backstory. But it's just, there's a story benefit for creating a story. Grimsag, Max, consider an hour session with all of us who show up online. We help you walk an NPC through one of your best old pre-made encounters, set the atmosphere, and let us type out suggestions. as to that character's next set of actions. One of your clever scenarios where choices matter. Grimslag, that's a great idea. I am going to do that. I may stream my session tomorrow. I'm not sure if my computer is up to it with people online, and I'm not sure my players will be comfortable with it, which is the reason I haven't streamed sessions up to now. Paladin Brewer, example of secrets, please. Rapscallion says, it worked at our game, Secrets rocked. Yeah, I've played a game with Rapscallion before. Grimslag, I'm going to do your suggestion. Maybe on Monday night. I will just play a game with chat. I think the thing is I need like enough people to show up and, you know, be prepared to kind of engage. Otherwise, it'll just be me talking. And I'm fine with talking for an hour and a half, or an hour and 43 minutes as we're at now. But you know, if enough people show up and are engaged, yeah, I'll GM for chat. I think that'll be fun and kind of a unique thing. Why not? I'll find a way to do it. I'll think about it. Or we'll just start doing it and make it up as we go. Paladin Brewer, example of secrets. Sure. So one of the characters in this game I'm running online, Wildlands, created a backstory that where she was a writer, and she mentioned her parents and her relationship with her writer parents. I'm looking it up, Paladin Brewer, in my notes. And I just grabbed a couple of things from her backstory. I grabbed a couple of things from the backstory, and I wrote, I messaged this player, secret. Your mother's acting troupe, which was something I pulled from the backstory they wrote. Your mother's acting troupe is scheduled to perform upon the first full moon of Mariko, which is just March. I just made up a calendar for this world. Your mother's acting troupe is scheduled to perform upon the first full moon of Mariko. So I gave a date in the not-too-distant city of Westhead. So I chose a location on the map and a date as part of the Festival of Flowers. From letters and rumors, particularly those exchanged with your publisher, because this character is a writer, you've pieced together that the patron of the acting troupe, Lady Thornsey, has commissioned a play that is intended to throw light upon the illegitimate rule of Westhead's self-styled king, a Lord Rothdal. So I've established a character that an NPC that is somewhat connected to her mother. I think that's our fire alarm from cooking. And I established this villain character, Lord Rothdal. I think I might have to go check on that. No, it stopped. Okay. And And I said, Westhead lies about 11 days' journey west of Toreen. It is known for its large port, a vast pyramid for the city's dead, and a giant bridge across the water to a sacred island. So as you can see, that is just mired in plot hooks. Maybe the player will be interested, maybe they won't. They'll probably be interested in their mother's acting troupe performance upon that date. And that is what I tried to do with all of these secrets. Oh, Dinarian, I'm off for the night, but if you play a chat game Monday, I'm definitely showing up for that. Thanks for the stream, Max. Good night, Din. Thank you so much for joining me. I better wrap up soon here myself. But there is an example of a secret paladin brewer. I gave that to the player. That was their reward for writing a backstory. I think the whole intent of it is to connect them to the world and give them another plot hook. Because one of the things about a Hexcrawler campaign is players need reasons to go places. So I read the backstory. I grabbed a couple of major characters from it, major things from it, and then I just used that to give the player a reason to go to a specific place at a specific time. A thing that only they know, so they, it's a secret that isn't generally known. I'm not going to reveal that to the rest of the players. So it's special, and it's just full of potential plot hooks. And with that, I'm going to sign off for the night. So, thank you all very much for joining me. Thanks for coming by, and thanks for following the stream. Pretty exciting to kind of start this off. I had a lot of fun just talking about my game, and I might stream over the weekend. If things work out, I might stream some sessions of this game and another RPG I play online. So, with that, have a good one, folks. Thanks a lot for coming by and supporting me. I really do appreciate it. Good night. Bye-bye.